Summary of Slow Down, the Degrowth Manifesto written by Kohei Saito. Introduction. The provided text offers a profound exploration of the author's perspective on individual and collective responses to global warming, the limitations of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and the overarching challenges posed by the Anthropocene. The narrative critically assesses commonly advocated eco-friendly actions, such as the use of reusable shopping bags and the reduction of disposable plastics. It contends that these individual measures, while well-intentioned, might provide a superficial sense of accomplishment, likening them to Catholic indulgences and suggesting they could divert attention from more fundamental systemic changes needed to combat climate change. The author also questions the efficacy of SDGs, endorsed globally by the United Nations and embraced by governments and industries. Despite widespread adherence to various aspects of the SDGs, the author argues that they function as mere alibis, presenting a facade of environmental responsibility while failing to address the urgent and profound threats posed by human activities on the planet. This characterization positions the SDGs as contemporary opiates, providing temporary relief while diverting attention from the imminent dangers facing the Earth. Central to the discussion is the concept of the Anthropocene, an epoch marked by the profound and irreversible impact of human economic activities on the Earth. The text references Paul Crutzon's declaration of the Anthropocene, emphasizing that human influence has covered the entire surface of the Earth, transforming it in ways that are fundamental and unprecedented. The ubiquity of man-made structures, from buildings to roads, and the surge in atmospheric carbon dioxide due to fossil fuel consumption since the Industrial Revolution underscore the profound alterations wrought by human intervention. The text provides historical context by examining levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide over the past 4 million years. Notably, the concentration has exceeded 400 parts per million, a level not witnessed in this timeframe. This historical backdrop sets the stage for contemplating potential consequences, invoking the Pliocene epoch as a precedent where Earth experienced higher temperatures, melted ice shelves, and substantially elevated sea levels. The text raises the question of whether the current trajectory in the Anthropocene is steering humanity towards similarly perilous conditions, highlighting a substantial threat to civilization. A significant theme is the paradoxical nature of economic growth promised by modernization, with the text arguing that it is undermining the essential foundations for human thriving. Despite the initial allure of a richer lifestyle, the text suggests that economic growth is, ironically, a destructive force that compromises the very elements necessary for human well-being. While the affluent may sustain luxurious lifestyles, ordinary citizens face an existential threat, a reality underscored by the vulnerabilities exposed during the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to these challenges, the text acknowledges the calls for a fundamental re-evaluation of existing practices. The Great Reset, proposed at the World Economic Forum in 2020, symbolizes efforts by global elites to address economic inequality and environmental degradation. However, the author urges caution against placing exclusive reliance on emergency responses orchestrated by politicians and experts. Instead, the text advocates for individuals to take initiative, share experiences, and raise their voices to effect meaningful change. The concluding section emphasizes the importance of individual action, suggesting that citizens should employ appropriate strategies and move in the right direction collectively. Understanding the root cause of the climate crisis is deemed crucial, with capitalism identified as the primary culprit. The text proposes an analysis of the intricate connections between nature, society, and capitalism in the Anthropocene, occasionally referencing Karl Marx's Capital. Rather than revisiting existing Marxist perspectives, the author aims to unearth and build upon a dormant facet of Marx's thought that has remained unexplored for 150 years. In essence, the text, titled Slow Down, seeks to contribute to unleashing the imaginative power necessary for creating a better society in the age of the climate crisis. It challenges conventional approaches to environmental issues, urging a deeper examination of the systemic roots of the problem. By linking environmental challenges to capitalism and proposing a novel perspective on Marx's ideas, the author invites readers to consider alternative paths toward a sustainable and equitable future. The narrative encourages a re-evaluation of individual actions and systemic changes, emphasizing the need for a collective and transformative response to the urgent challenges posed by the Anthropocene. In summary, the text offers a comprehensive exploration of the complexities surrounding climate change, calling for a re-evaluation of individual and collective responses. It critiques commonly advocated measures, questions the efficacy of global initiatives like the SDGs, and delves into the systemic issues tied to capitalism and the Anthropocene. The narrative invites readers to contemplate the broader implications of environmental challenges and encourages a shift towards more meaningful and systemic solutions. Chapter 1. The text dives deep into the nuanced and controversial realm of climate economics, with a particular focus on the Nobel laureate William Nordhaus and his contributions to the field. It explores the criticisms leveled against Nordhaus, delves into the urgency of addressing climate change, and discusses broader concepts like the imperial mode of living and externalization society. The central point of contention is Nordhaus's approach to balancing economic growth and climate change mitigation. His 1991 article proposed the introduction of a carbon tax and presented a model to determine an optimal rate of carbon dioxide emission reduction. However, critics argue that his proposed balance tips too heavily towards economic growth, potentially compromising the necessary steps to combat climate change effectively. The critique suggests that Nordhaus's perspective leans too far in favor of economic interests over the urgency of mitigating the impacts of climate change. It challenges the idea that maintaining the current rate of economic growth is more beneficial than aggressively addressing climate concerns. The text underscores the gravity of the situation by noting that Nordhaus's proposed optimal rate of carbon reduction could result in a significant temperature increase, exceeding the targets set by international agreements like the Paris Agreement. The consequences of such temperature increases are depicted as potentially catastrophic, especially for the Global South. The author argues that Nordhaus's approach, which prioritizes economic growth, could disproportionately affect vulnerable regions in Africa and Asia. This critique questions the ethics of emphasizing economic interests over the well-being of populations in these areas. Furthermore, the text highlights the broader influence of Nordhaus's ideas on global climate policies. It suggests that his perspective, emphasizing the balance between economic growth and environmental concerns, has permeated mainstream environmental economics. This influence, the text argues, might be reflected in global initiatives such as the Paris Agreement, which may fall short of truly addressing the climate crisis due to the prevailing economic-centric mindset. The urgency of the climate crisis is emphasized by pointing out the already observable impacts, such as abnormal weather events becoming the new normal. The author warns that the point of no return is approaching, where rapid and irreversible changes will make it impossible to revert to previous conditions. Specific risks, such as the potential release of methane gas from thawing permafrost, are highlighted as critical issues that demand immediate attention. To avert catastrophe, the text proposes following the recommendations of scientists, which include limiting the rise in average global temperatures to 34.7 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100. The author stresses the need for immediate and aggressive action, suggesting a drastic reduction in carbon dioxide emissions by almost half by 2030 and achieving net zero emissions by 2050. The potential consequences of failing to meet these targets are described as severe, with a projected temperature increase of 39.2 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100 and the associated irreparable damage and economic costs. The narrative then shifts to introduce the concept of the imperial mode of living. This lifestyle prevalent in the global north is portrayed as relying on the extraction of energy and natural resources from the global south. The text argues that the affluence enjoyed by societies in the global north is sustained by the exploitation of labor and resources from distant regions, contributing to environmental degradation and social injustices. The imperial mode of living is presented as a manifestation of the externalization society, a term describing the process of passing along costs to distant places and rendering them invisible. The Munich University sociologist Stefan Lesenic's critique of this externalization society is introduced, highlighting the indispensable role it plays in maintaining the perceived richness of societies in the global north. This critique questions the ethics of enjoying a comfortable lifestyle while ignoring the environmental and social costs borne by other regions. The discussion expands to assert that both workers and the environment are objects of exploitation in the pursuit of economic growth. The critique suggests that capitalism, as practiced in global North countries, relies on an opposition between the core and the periphery. The exploitation of cheap labor from the periphery, known as the Global South, is likened to the extraction of resources from the environment. The text draws from the world systems approach of American sociologist Emanuel Wallerstein to explain how capitalism's global reach has led to the exploitation of both human labor and the environment. The concept of an unequal exchange between core and periphery, resulting in overdevelopment in developed countries and underdevelopment in developing ones, is presented as a consequence of this capitalist system. The narrative suggests that with the global reach of capitalism extending to every corner of the world, new frontiers for plundering resources have disappeared, leading to a decline in profits and some even declaring the potential end of capitalism. The author asserts that the exploitation of human labor and the environment is intrinsic to capitalism and that the pursuit of unlimited economic growth within this system places the world's environment in danger. The text concludes by proposing a fundamental shift in the current system, challenging the capitalist structure itself. The author contends that understanding the relationship between capitalism and environmental destruction is crucial to addressing the root causes of the environmental crisis. This conclusion encourages a re-evaluation of the imperial mode of living and a call for systemic change to achieve a more sustainable and just future. In summary, the text provides a comprehensive exploration of the criticisms against William Nordhaus's approach to climate economics, emphasizing the urgency of addressing climate change, and introducing broader concepts like the imperial mode of living and externalization society. It advocates for a fundamental shift away from the current capitalist system to achieve a more sustainable and equitable global future.